Okay, are we live? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slamhub Wrestling. Myself, Suprit, and this is your AEW Dynamite review for February 10th, or is it the 9th?
Ninth.
Are you sure, Abby?
Yes, I'm positive.
Yeah, so it's for February 9th, 2022. And I'm joined by Abby Maniac here. What did you think about this Dynamite that many people are saying is an all-timer? I personally thought it was a really good show, mostly because of the hype, but the other stuff also came out looking good. Give me your thoughts.
I have a similar opinion. I cannot say about the hype. I did not go forward, uh, looking into the hype. But I can say, you know, the overall show, top to bottom, was fucking amazing. No, I really enjoyed the show. And uh, you can you know make out from my demeanor, from my smile itself. It was a great show in my opinion, top to bottom. Yes, of course there were points which we can criticize here and there, but overall you can say top to bottom, I would say 90 to 95% of the stuff people were invested. There wasn't anything that was just thrown out. You know, we have seen in the past that they have just thrown stuff out there, just a wrestling match. Fucking, for the audience, just watch this match. What is the logic? What is the story? Nothing. Just watch a great match. But here, in this case, in this episode of Dynamite, I would say overall, top to bottom, there was something to look forward to. There was an investment in everything which happened throughout the show. Every story, every rivalry, everything. There was something there. There was some substance there. So I would say, yes, you could say it was one of the best shows probably they have ever, you know,
So
put
we'll
forth.
talk about the entirety of the show, but before that, if you're new to Slam Up Wrestling, then make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and do all that fun stuff. Check out our other content links provided in the description below. So Dynamite, they were actually in Atlantic City, and I think this is the same venue that they did WrestleMania 5 and 6, and the crowd was very solid here, really good crowd. So opening up Dynamite here was with a MJF celebration after he defeated CM Punk in Chicago not once but twice. So this celebration was really big. So we had the entrance ramp over there, being decorated with the MJF signature Burberry scarf-like carpet, and then we had Wardlow coming out. He looks little disinterested. He actually came out with two giant cutouts, cardboard cutouts of MJF. One of them being, him choking out CM Punk. So the cardboard cutouts were, laid out in the ring. Then he, I think, gave out something to Justin Roberts as he slowly, started introducing the Pinnacle members. So first off, it was the Living Legends FTR with Tully Blanchard. Then it was the Accountability Buddy, as MJF calls him, Sean Spears. And commentators were pointing out, look how these guys are getting an entrance and not Wardlow. So good point on that. And finally, there was a long,
Absolutely.
yeah, there
Yes.
was a long, you could say, intro for MJF listing of all his accomplishments, like, uncrowned world champion, undefeated, Dynamite Diamond Ring winner, and also that there was that one line where he said that he's known for pinning shoulders to the mat and banging rats. So finally, MJF comes out. Very grand entrance as he was, being carried like a king on that throne or podium, whatever you want to call it. So he was also accompanied by two ladies. One of them I recognized was upcoming indie wrestler Gabby Ortiz. Shout out to her. And the other, I think, at this point, in a way, it is reported that she is dating MJF. So what happened was so these two ladies, one of them Gabby Ortiz, she actually gave a kiss to MJF on the cheeks, and then the other one was tonsil hockey, all out of control, like this guy. So MJF is celebrating with the Pinnacle members, a very group hug. You could say a group hug. They're dancing around, celebrating. We see confetti coming, falling from the sky. They are drinking champagnes as Wardlow is standing there in the corner with a fake smile. So MJF, gets on the mic and talks about, his accomplishments like beating CM Punk in Chicago last week, not once but twice, and also said that at one point he kind of looked up to Punk, but now he has finally beaten him, something like that. And now it's he is the best wrestler in the world, not guys like CM Punk, Bryan Danielson. He even mentioned Kenny Omega, even Hangman Page, and he also talks about finally getting that world title shot. And as this is going around, and the crowd is completely hating MJF, no surprise, good work by MJF. So CM Punk finally shows up. I think it was obvious at this point that he was going to show up in some capacity here. So he shows up, no music, and he calls out for Tony Schiavone. He shows up and he was holding the mic for Punk here. So Punk basically came out as he was just sick of MJF, listening him in the back, and he criticized MJF for being a coward and also questioned his spray tan. And basically Punk was out there to ask for a rematch. MJF blatantly said no, and for a second Punk almost said that he wants a rematch with Wardlow, saying, and then he is kind of talking to Wardlow, and he said his main goal was there to kick the shit out of MJF and the rest of the members of the Pinnacle members. So he calls out Sting and Darby Allin, who came out with baseball bats. So Punk gave a warning to the heels, saying, get ready for a ass whooping. And he said to Wardlow, if you want to join these guys, fine, or get the hell out of there. So basically at one point, like I said, he was calling for a rematch with Wardlow. It was very interesting at that point. So MJF is denying the rematch here, said he has beaten him already, and said that he kind of gave a stipulation that in order to get this rematch, he would have to beat the greatest tag team, mentioning FTR, and Punk would have to pick a surprise, go out and find a tag team partner if you can. That's the challenge. But he said that it can't be these two guys in Sting and Darby Allin. So that was the entire segment. It was very entertaining, and we'll get to the match, the eventual match with FTR and Punk. But I think this is the first time that AEW has done an angle in the same night, and we have gotten a payoff in the very same night. I think this is a first in AEW. We usually don't see this. They could have done it the following, but you're getting the payoff the same night. I think this is a very WWE-esque type of booking that we have, that still that company does. But this is AEW, getting in that territory. So what did you think about that situation and the overall thing with this storyline progression?
First off, I would like to say that the thing that you said and you alluded to that, you know, hyping a match in the opening part of the show and then having the match at the end of the show or in the midst of the show. You know, I have heard this, thing. Uh, I guess in one of the uh, reviews, or you can say one of the podcasts done in the past by Jim Cornette, and he alluded to the said fact, and he said that it is good booking because you make sure that the audience is invested and is hooked to your show, and they stay hooked to your show, and they want to watch the show, and they want to you can say see the payoff to the said, you know subject, or you can say to the said rivalry, so to speak, or whatever, in the end of the show or in the midst of the show. So they stay hooked, so to speak. And in a way, your rating is this, you know, consistent throughout. So it is a good way to book. And probably it was the idea of CM Punk and MJF to do that. Yes, it is WWE, yes, but yes, it works as well if you look at it logically. You know? And with and I liked it. I saw it as it was getting executed, and how it ended with the match, and how the match got executed. I pretty much liked what happened throughout the match and also this segment. And with regards to this segment, i I like this segment very much. I love this segment. Perfect start to the show. you know Last week you ended the show with a main event in Chicago where Punk lost twice, you know, to MJF. So it was a hot topic, and people wanted to know that what the fuck is next, and you started off with that. So you know, it 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 made sense, to start off with the MJF angle, and having a celebration with all the Pinnacle members. It you can say it resonates with the character of MJF. You know, being a heel, or you can say whatever, boasting about his win, and thumping his ego, and whatever happened. It suits his character. Nothing was out of the realm of his character, and out of the said story, out of this bubble of this rivalry. So it made sense, and whatever was talked about, and whatever was happening indirectly also with regards to Wardlow and MJF also, it made perfect sense. And the entrance of MJF you talked about, perfect in my opinion. And probably the uh, lady he had the tongue twister with, I guess he is dating, probably. And other than that, Wardlow played his role to perfection. The camera, whoever the cameraman was, he was told, to get the emotion of Wardlow throughout the segment. And we saw Wardlow was visibly frustrated
Yeah,
throughout.
I forgot that line now that you mention it. He actually, what happened, everybody knows that Wardlow actually assisted MJF to beat Punk again, But MJF didn't acknowledge it. He actually gave the credit to Sean Spears, and you just pointed out the expression of Wardlow. Like, is this guy serious? Like, who the fuck
Hmm.
is this guy?
Yes, and it is adding to the tension and the eventual showdown, or you can say the eventual breakup of the Wardlow from the faction. So it is adding to the eventual breakup. So it made sense. Everything what was happening here, it made sense. Everything, and the moniker of MJF, better than best in the world, it also makes sense, obviously. And other than that, yes, you talked about the concept of promoting a match later in the show. Good stuff. And right now, MJF versus CM Punk. Right now, I would say it is one of the best stories or rivalries that people are invested in. I cannot say in wrestling because I'm, you know, not able to watch uh, other stuff consistently, but in AEW, probably yes. It is one of the best rivalries or stories right now. So good stuff.
And also, the following two segments had a good transition to this because this ended by MJF saying that Wardlow has to get ready for his match that is coming up next. But before
Hmm.
this, we have Andrade El Idolo, and he had another meeting with Darby Allin Sting, who were also in the previous segment. So they're having this meeting backstage. So he's finally meeting Sting, I guess, Andrade, and he is trying again to get Darby Allin in his faction. Was of
Hmm.
He wants to do some deal here. So Andrade is giving yet another chance. So Sting casually talks. Didn't you speak to this guy last week and you cleared this? So Darby then said that he is not interested in joining his group at all, like he has said before. His main goal is to get the TNT championship. So Andrade has similar type of goals, that he too wants the TNT championship. So they had a little stare down there at the end. So interesting, this is something to look forward, because I could see these two guys by default, getting into that Revolution ladder match, the face of the Revolution ladder match, which would make sense. So that is something to look forward to. So let's talk about the match that we said Wardlow was in action. So yes, he didn't have any time to get his tape, and like he showed up in his ring gear, of course, but he didn't have to do his tape and stuff, which was pointed out by the commentary team. Excuse me. So he was facing the Blade of the AHFO, and they did something different here. The Blade did a jump start and went after the knee of Wardlow. Wardlow is getting super babyface reaction. They are doing the Wardlow chant, kind of like that Goldberg chant that we have used to in the past. So crowd is behind Wardlow here, and Blade is actually working on the leg of Wardlow, taking out, neutralizing the big guy here. So Blade is on the offense. So what happened was there was a spot where he is going for some kick in the corner, and Wardlow caught him midair, hit a power bomb. Then he would get total about 4 to 5 power bombs until finally getting the job done by the pin, and quick victory for Wardlow here. So good stuff here, because you're progressing the story, also getting him some matches, and everything is going fine for Wardlow.
Yes, yes, absolutely agreed. And as uh, we all, witnessed that this was a little longer, match for Wardlow. And as you pointed out, that he was hurting from his left thigh. Blade got some offense in this match, and Wardlow selling his left thigh. Uh, I saw that, you know, it was only momentary. Then he sold it, but in the ending moments of the bout, he completely forgot about it. It could be adrenaline. We could, uh, you know, attest to that, or he is learning, of course, the art. So whatever, and yes, uh, the audience is, you know getting invested in the character, and the MJF Punk thing is also getting, the crowd invested in this character, invested in the story, and what the fuck is going to happen with the dynamic of MJF and Wardlow. So it is overall what is happening with the Pinnacle and CM Punk is good stuff. And I would also like to say that the proposition that CM Punk, you know, threw out, that he wanted a rematch with Wardlow, so not MJF. So that also creates a tension between MJF and Wardlow. That MJF could take it, or probably he did take it as an offense to him, that why the fuck CM Punk wants a rematch with Wardlow and not me. So that would hurt his ego. So that also creates tension between MJF, that is him, and Wardlow. So, you know, things are, going rapidly, and good stuff.
But moving on, we had Penta L Zero, a video package for him. He was seen in actually in a cemetery. So Alex Abrahantes was narrating this package and talks about what happened to Penta. I think it was last week, where he was blacklisted by Malachi Black. So we would see, as Alex Abrahantes is doing the narrating. So Penta is in this cemetery, goes at this graveyard, and he's digging something up with a shovel. So he digs up a red and black Penta mask. So basically, the end story is that we are getting Pentagon Dark, his alter ego, it seems, and he's going after Malachi and Brody King, of course. So yeah, should be good. Sounds like
Hmm.
scary, I guess.
Hmm. Looking
But,
forward to it.
but another big thing happening on Dynamite here. We had the inner circle meeting. So Jericho, Chris Jericho shows up with the TNT champions Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager. So they came out to Judas, and Jericho gets on the mic, says that he's been looking for Santana and Ortiz throughout the night, but they are missing. But right on cue, we hear the theme of Santana and Ortiz. They came out separately. Commentators pointed out that they're coming out to new theme, like it's new theme like they got 6 months ago. But anyways, you get the gist of it. So Santana and Ortiz came out, and we got them, talking about the problem they had for the past few weeks, especially Jericho. He pointed out what happened in the six-man tag that they had just recently with 2.0 and Daniel Garcia, where Jericho wasn't tagged in by Santana and Ortiz, and he said that this, you stole something from the crowd, that the crowd showed up that night to see Jericho perform. And Santana gets on the mic. He talks about his frustrations, saying that there is a reason that we are not tag team champions right now. It's because of you, because when since day one we came out to support you and fight your battles, and something like that. So Jericho responded that he has done everything for proud and powerful, since day one, since the start of AEW, what they have done collectively, main eventing Dynamite, Rampages, some pay-per-views, and also talked about them actually getting a title shot. I think he pointed out a date here that Proud and Powerful actually got a title shot against the Young Bucks, and they lost it. So Jericho basically said, don't blame me for your failure, something like that. And things were getting really, intense as Santana and Jericho were exchanging this verbal battle. And Santana, by the way, was really fire on the mic here on this segment. And there was this one line where Santana was speaking and talking about his stuff that is going on, and he pointed towards Jericho. I can see that he want to talk something on the mic, so he basically said lower your mic. That was a very ooh moment. So Jericho, with a fiery line, you could say, said, I think we did a mistake here. We hired the wrong members of LAX. And he told Jaeger, hey, do you have the numbers of Homicide and Hernandez? So this was the breaking point for Santana, and he got on the throat of Jericho. Then Sammy Guevara jumps in to be the peacemaker here. And Jericho say, shut up, Sammy. So this was so Sammy was basically taken back by this line, that Jericho said. And at this point, Sammy Guevara had heard enough. He talks about he has quit the group before, and he now, I think, he wants to focus on his things, the thing he's been doing lately, that is being TNT champion. And he said that he wants to be the greatest champion, but he can't do it with this shit happening with the inner circle. So he said he has quit the inner circle before, and now he wants to quit the inner circle again until you get this shit together. So he takes off the inner circle jacket and he walks away from this segment. So back in the ring, Ortiz gets on the mic, and there was something like, even Santana pointed out that if it wasn't for Ortiz, he would have beaten basically kicked the shit out of Jericho. So the end goal here was Proud and Powerful laid out a challenge that they usually wherever they come from, they usually settle things with with this, pointing like they settle this with a fight. So the challenge was, they challenge basically Jericho and Hager to a tag match next week on Dynamite. They're going to finally settle everything here. So Jericho accepted, and we're getting this tag match next week. And I like this segment, and I think next week is the end goal here in terms of Proud and Powerful finally walking away from Inner Circle. They also brought up Eddie Kingston in this situation. So as of now, I kind of like where everything is going.
I loved this segment. All the words and the stuff which was said from all the members, all the stakeholders. It felt real. Maybe some words came from a place of reality as well. And LAX, basically Santana and Ortiz, really shined, and they showed up in this segment, and you can say they really made a mark, and they left a mark. as well. And it was entertaining. I loved it, and I'm looking forward to next week. The tag match, Hager Jericho versus LAX, Proud and Powerful, and uh, probably many people haven't seen Proud and Powerful LAX in this light, which we saw in this segment. They really showed that they are one of the best tag teams on the planet. And in the ring, we know that they are gifted. But on the microphone, now you know that how good they are. They can hang, they can do it. If they did with Jericho, and probably they outdid him, and obviously it was the purpose of the said segment, they really shine and they really showed that how good they are. And if they are given an opportunity to do that, they can be credible, they can be good AEW World Tag Team Champions if they are given the opportunity to do that. But if there is politics and if there is shit that that exists throughout the society, that we can't be showed up from the you know some EVPs, then it won't happen nearly, but it would eventually happen. When you work hard, when you have a positive mindset, it eventually happens. People see it. When people are behind you, it eventually happens. And he said that in the segment as well, that the people were the thing that kept them going. And it is a said fact. They are good. We have heard about them, we have seen them in Impact Wrestling, we have seen them in the independent circuit. They are good. They probably are great. And this rivalry or this situation, it would really put LAX over if it is executed, and if it is the investment is put in from the promoter as well, with the the promos and the backstage segments and everything. It wouldn't end next week. I wouldn't want it to end it all next week. It should progress, and it would progress, because other than that, it wouldn't serve the purpose. It wouldn't serve the purpose of putting LAX over. It wouldn't serve the purpose of getting the fans invested in LAX. A 1 week shit wouldn't serve the purpose. It should stretch. It should have something that stretches it out. And I don't know what would happen. You know, People like you, people like me, we want LAX to break away from this inner circle shit and be independent and go forward for the tag team championship. You want that, I want that. But I guess what this story or this faction is built on, and this company is built on, and the lack of TV time points to an eventual reconciliation story. It points to that eventually it would happen. It points to that, but it should stretch as far as possible so that it puts over LAX. It should put over LAX in such a way that people see them as credible contenders to the tag team championship. And then, whenever this stretched out story ends, or even if it is work in progress, LAX wins the tag team championships. the people shouldn't be like, no, 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 they don't deserve it. People should be, they fucking deserved it since day one. They should be put over in such a way from this situation. So we don't know that will LAX break away or will not. But right now, what it points to eventually that it would be a reconciliation of some sorts, but it should put over them as credible contenders to the tag team championship, and it should put over LAX in such a way that people get invested in LAX. You put over Sammy Guevara in the past. Yes, people are invested in him. And how invested people are in Sammy Guevara and how is his booking, that is a little questionable. I cannot judge that. You know, he is TNT champion, given. But now you are focusing on LAX, do that. Put them over. They are good on the microphone. They have that. Sammy Guevara, I guess, doesn't have that, but LAX have that. They would be even. They would be able to, hold their own on the microphone. So they have that. So they have the potential to be fucking superstars. So put them over. Then let's see what happens. So looking forward to the story. I am invested because the things that were said and what is the underlying foundation of the story, it is real. LAX are in a way frustrated, you know. So I'm looking forward to what happens next and what eventually, where LAX lands.
That is next week. But moving on, we had a interview segment with Roppongi Boys, that is Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero. So I think we are getting the Young Bucks and Roppongi Boys finally at Rampage. So this interview was cut short by the Young Bucks, who said that they heard that they are having an interview segment, so they decided to say hi and stuff. So what happened was Adam Cole shows up and attacks Roppongi Vice, that is Romero and Beretta here. So it was a 3-on-2 beatdown, and we see, I think it was Trent who ate a BT trigger by the Young Bucks, and or was it Romero? I think it was Rocky Romero. So
Yes, it was Romero.
so they were about to do the same thing with Trent, I guess, and then Adam Cole, in somewhere in the corner, said that, guys, look who it is. Then we see someone in a trenched coat show up, and it read Switchblade, and it is King Switch himself, Jay White, has knocked down the Forbidden Door again, and he showed up in this segment, and he joined in the beatdown and attacked Rocky Romero and Beretta here, and did posed for the camera for a while, and left before and said, complimented one of the Young Bucks, saying nice earrings. And that was that. Jay White finally showing up in AEW. I think this is what everyone was clamoring about, since the Forbidden Door has been opened since last year. So he is another New Japan guy. So interesting, and I think it also makes sense for whatever that they are doing with Adam Cole and the Young Bucks in terms of their story. So we had the reunion of Red Dragon, that is still up in the air on what kind of payoff they are going to do. So Jay White is another guy. So basically we could say at the end they could we could be seeing Adam Cole betraying the Young Bucks, even though Kenny Omega is not there. So that story is coming back. Still unclear on what direction they are going, but it's still intriguing. So Jay White is here, and funny enough, I was having this discussion that at this point Bullet Club is dead, and now Jay White shows up and they are bringing up the Bullet Club thing again. I'm like, come on, man, let's kill the Bullet Club hype for once and for all. Let's bury Bullet Club and remember them for being one of the most influential factions in modern era. But nonetheless, what did you think about Jay Watt showing up in AEW, man?
Uh, I like to say that yes, it was surprising, obviously, and I popped when I saw Jay White, and I don't know if they have some plan for Jay White, uh, you know, for the future, or it was just a one-off. And this said segment would uh, eventually pay off in New Japan Pro Wrestling programming. It was just done so as to get a moment and add to the story between the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, and Red Dragon. And basically, you also uh, created a story between Roppongi Vice and Bullet Club in a way. That would eventually, you can have the matches or match on New Japan Pro Wrestling programming. So you hyped it a bit here, basically. I don't think so that Jay White is here for the long haul. I don't think so.
Maybe getting a one-off match here and there, and that's it.
Uh, I don't know. The roster of AW is so stacked, and the uh, you know TV time is so you can say stacked, or you can say is so little that I don't see that how would Jay White, would you can say be figured out here. That how would you uh, figure him in a story? I don't know, and I don't see the space basically. You saw Dynamite this week. Did you see anywhere the Rhodes and the American top team thing? No, you
No.
didn't. So that was surprising. I got this thought last night that there was nothing, no mention of that. So it is difficult, and we know that Jay White has been a probably he has had a regular presence on Impact Wrestling recently. So I don't know. Probably, the point that I alluded to, that the payoff between Roppongi Vice and Bullet Club, it would probably happen on New Japan Pro Wrestling programming.
Uh, now
So,
that I think about,
so
now
yes,
that I think of it, whatever they're doing, they're going to give some payoff to why Jay White showed up. That comes in line with whatever is going on in the super clip, and what is Adam Cole thinking about right now. Because Young Bucks didn't know that Jay White going to show up. Same thing with Red Dragon when Kyle O'Reilly first showed up. So
yes,
kind of makes sense. Hope we stay intrigued and invested in this in the long haul. But
yes,
let's see where this goes. And excited that Jay White finally showed up somewhere. The last year was bit of a could say a downgrade for him. He left Japan in early January, I guess, last year. Then he was doing stuff here in the States with New Japan. fine, but he was not in the limelight. Then he showed up in
Hmm.
Impact,
Hmm.
and it is a one-off. Like he showed up when Kenny was champion, excited. Kenny is not champion again, lost the championship basically, and I think that plans got scrapped. And he shows up here in Dynamite. I think the buzz is going to start back for Jay White, which is great, and nothing much to say.
Hmm. And now, as you pointed out with regards to Kenny Omega, if and when Kenny Omega returns to AEW, then probably we can see some involvement of Jay White on AEW program. But at this point, I don't see any logic or even any reason of Jay White you know being involved on AW programming right now. So we should look forward to just him adding to the story with Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Red Dragon, and him creating, yes, indirectly tension or planting seed of an eventual showdown between him and Kenny Omega in the distant future. That's pretty much it.
And speaking about Kenny Omega, I think his update is that they he could show up in Revolution, but at this point it's not the I could say it's not going to happen because of his injuries are pretty bad and his recovery time should be longer at this point. This is being stated by Meltzer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right.
So let's see where this goes. And there you go. The forbidden door thing is out of the window as one of the surprises. So let's talk about the other surprise here. So this was the qualifying match for the face of the Revolution ladder match. So this is Isaiah Cassidy versus a surprise, you could say, opponent who's going to be the new member of AEW, and it turns out to be Limitless Keith Lee. Got a huge reaction. So he shows up, and by the way, it's going to take me a while to get into his theme. It's pretty good. It's going to take me a while, but nonetheless, Keith Lee is here. The crowd is loving this guy, and they did the bask in his glory thing that the crowd chant. Oh, bask in his glory, like super in. Keith Lee is loving this moment. So match begins here with Isaiah Cassidy. Isaiah Cassidy got into the face of Keith Lee. So Lee shoves Cassidy into the corner, and he did, I think, one of the most impressive looking beels that I've seen in wrestling lately. Like, he tossed Isaiah Cassidy almost out of the ring from one corner. And the height that Cassidy got was insane. Like, from the get go, Keith Lee has created a moment. So basically, this match was one sided. Like, he's tossing Cassidy from one corner to the other, and we had a small moment with Mark Quinn in the at the outside. Matt Hardy, by the way, when Keith Lee showed up, had a disappointed expression on his face, and this stayed as Keith Lee was dominating Cassidy. Keith Lee even pounced Cassidy outside the ring at one point, and at this point, Matt Hardy said, "Fuck it," and he decided to leave the ring and walk through the crowd, which is I found it funny because this was kind of a reference to what Jeff Hardy did in his last days with WWE in that house show incident.
Yes.
Walking in the middle of the match and through the crowd. That what Jeff Hardy did, basically something similar to that. At this point, I loved it. So back to this match, Keith Lee did the pounce, And Isaiah Cassidy did get some offense in thanks to some distraction by Mark Quinn. So what happened was Isaiah Cassidy hit a, like, Keith Lee was in the apron. Cassidy hit a springboard stunner. It looked very awkward. And you could see Keith Lee saying, "What the fuck was that?" Like, it was that awkward. So Cassidy then hit a tope corkscrew dive, taking out Keith Lee in the process, but it was short lived. At one point, Cassidy was hitting several drop kicks to knock down Keith Lee. He was looking for an enziguri. Keith Lee just swapped him midair, and from there, as we get to the final parts, Keith Lee hit the Big Bang Catastrophe. I don't know what he's going to call it in AEW. He hit that, his version of the jackhammer. Got the 1, 2, 3, and there you go. Keith Lee advances in this Revolution ladder match. Great debut, by the way, with the reaction he was getting. You could say you could nitpick things here and there, but overall, great stuff. And let me get to the post match before I get your thoughts. Post match was Mark Quinn attacking Keith Lee, and we had for a while a 2-on-1 beatdown on the big guy, but it was no prevail. So what happened was, as Keith Lee was knocked outside, Cassidy was looking for a dive, I guess, but he got caught and was dropped to the floor. Isaiah Cassidy, sorry, Mark Quinn, excuse me, was looking for a senton dive, and Keith Lee caught him midair in a powerbomb position, and he powerbombed him basically on his tag team partner until another powerbomb on the apron, and there you go. That was Keith Lee, shining in this moment. Give me your thoughts on Keith Lee and this big debut. Did AW do some favors? How did you like this?
Uh, I really loved it. It was a great showcase for Keith Lee, and Keith Lee, I would say he is a welcome addition to the AEW roster. Basically, and he is of a different build. So he can attract a mainstream audience as well, and he'll bring something different to the plate, and he is an indie darling. So you have everything mixed in with Keith Lee, and you know you talked about Matt Hardy. His shit was basically that he said on Rampage that if Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn don't get their act together, he would have to think of something else for him. So basically, what was happening in the match, and the match being one-way street for Keith Lee, Matt Hardy thought that I should pack my bags and I should leave. And you talking about, him leaving in a very Jeff Hardy-esque fashion. Absolutely, he did it on purpose. And probably we would see House Hardy pretty soon on AW television.
Funny
Uh,
enough, funny
yes,
enough,
yes.
when they built this surprise, the two main guys were of course Keith Lee and the other was Jeff Hardy. If it was Jeff Hardy, that would have been also been great with how what Matt Hardy is doing with this story with Isaiah Cassidy. That would have made sense. But I think Keith Lee was also a great option. It came out really great, and they even put out a small thing with Jeff Hardy. So, like you said, that's going to be a thing when Jeff Hardy, I think his contract, his 90 days is still running, I guess, but I don't know. But as you were saying, man,
Yes. Uh, Whenever it makes sense, they would eventually pull the trigger with House Hardy debuting on AW television. It could probably happen at Revolution, post the tag team championship match. They just throw out the surprise appearance of House Hardy. It can happen. We do not know at this point. So let's see. and probably their first match could be against Private Party. Just, you know, on Dynamite, just for the sake of it, to introduce them to the AEW audience and to introduce them to the world that, the Hardy Boys or House Hardy are on AEW television, basically. So let's see. We are
So,
invested.
this Keith Lee signing is actually a big signing for them. Like, let me tell you something here. Keith Lee, if in another universe, if everything was good over there in WWE, he would have made, basically, he would have been the perfect guy to dethrone Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And Keith Lee would have been the next big thing in that company. But they dropped him. I could say they dropped the ball completely with this guy when he showed up on the main roster. No surprise. And now he's in AEW. This is a game changer for AEW right now. You have another potential guy that could really make sense being their world champion.
Hmm. Hmm. I I cannot comment on that with 100% certainty, but probably yes. The problems with Keith Lee, I cannot comment on that what happened and what didn't. But you know the, we read reports online that there were some health issues, there was something with regards to his health. There were many things that were involved. Basically, there was probably something that was fundamental to this thing. We saw here that when he made his debut, that he seems a little out of shape, but he would get back in shape a little. Yes, he is built different. He brings something else to the table, but he looks a little out of shape. But he would get in shape, obviously, when he gets in the groove and he appears on television and he gets in stories. He would eventually get in shape, obviously. He knows that you know he has to be in shape, obviously, to perform and to be in the mainstream, obviously. But speaking of the problem, probably, I'm not saying with 100% certainty which would have happened with WWE, which was the fundamental problem. I'm not saying the health issues or something. I'm saying the fundamental problem, which would have been the breaking point. It would have been with regards to the name, the copyright thing. I have talked about it probably in one of the reviews in the past, that the people or the talents who do not give the copyrights or something like that to their name to WWE, uh, something problem, basically some problem arises. You know, it happened with EC3. There is a ceiling. There a ceiling arises when you do not give basically the copyrights or the rights to your character name to WWE, or the name to your character isn't given from the WWE machine. So that creates a problem. So probably what has happened, I'm not the word to focus on is probably what happened is Keith Lee didn't give the rights to his name because it could be many reasons. The future is uncertain. He thinks that he has built that name. He doesn't want to give the rights to his name. And if he is fired or he wants to work in the independent circuit in the future, so he has the rights to his name and he can use that name when he is in the independent circuit. So probably he didn't give the rights to his name to WWE to use for merchandise for eternity, like John Cena. Instead, unlike John Cena or Brock Lesnar has. Getting my point? John Cena, Brock Lesnar. The thing is with John Cena is his real name, but he has given the rights to WWE to sell merchandise, to sell anything, to use the name John Cena in video games and everything for eternity. Just saying. And probably the same is the case for Brock Lesnar. But here, in the case of Keith Lee is his real name. It is not a character name, it is his real name. So probably Keith Lee didn't give the rights to his name. So that created a breaking point. So that was the reason why you saw on Monday Night Raw Bearcat Lee, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
You saw,
Bearcat Lee. And before
yes.
that, they basically stripped him from his original identity. Like
Hmm,
they slowly told him to work differently, like a typical big guy. Then
hmm,
they basically whatever organic that was, you would see in Keith Lee, it slowly disappeared. They decided to put a giant vest on him to say he's out of shape. And there you go, that was the end of Keith Lee when he got on the main roster. NXT
hmm,
Keith Lee, even though he's in the WWE machine, Triple H booked him perfectly. And
hmm.
when he got into the ring with Lesnar and Roman Reigns initially, he was a made star to be made on the main roster, but no, they failed.
They do that shit for multiple reasons. It is because of the revenue, basically. It is because of the money. Money is the reason. That is the basic reason. Many things boil down to money, basically. They I'm talking about WWE. They do not probably want or basically that this guy makes money from this name Keith Lee, and then he goes out and then he uses that name. People know of him and he makes money. He basically used this platform and he went out, and he doesn't give a shit about us. Basically, he's making money, but we are not making money. We invested in the guy. We gave him a platform of worldwide television, and he went out, basically. But if we would have given him a name, we would have invested in the guy. Then we would have used that name. We would have made money from that, and he would have made money from that as well. No denying that. It all boils down to revenue, basically. It all boils down to money. If WWE thinks that it is a good deal for both the parties, then they go forward with that. The case with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar gave them the rights that they can use for the merchandise and everything, and he can use his name in the stuff he does outside UFC, whatever the fuck. John Cena. He uses the name John Cena outside movies, Hollywood, whatever the fuck. And WWE uses John Cena here. Merchandise, WWE 2K, whatever. So both the parties are benefiting. That is the thing.
But here we
So
go. Keith Lee is in
yes.
AEW, and
So
Hope.
yes.
No, screw the Hope thing. I think Tony Khan gets this one right with Keith Lee
Hmm.
in a different promotion. Whatever the previous promotion could get him right, AEW will finally get it. And this was a good showing.
Hmm. Yes.
And let's see. I think at this point, his favorite to win that ladder match. There was something going on with a Sammy Guevara segment with the cue card bit, where he also mentioned the arrival of Keith Lee. Also talked about Andrade and Darby Allin. So, as of now, those are your three favorites to win this ladder match, and one of them is officially in at this point. So let's see where that goes. We had a package for Thunder Rosa and Mercedes Martinez, and it was last week actually that we got to know what the actual story is. It's Britt Baker who basically put a bounty on Thunder Rosa. We know why she did that, but they actually didn't say why. But it will make sense eventually as the days goes by. So I think we are getting another rematch between Thunder Rosa and Mercedes Martinez, because the last time it ended in a DQ where Martinez basically pulled out a steel pipe and used it in the match. So I think this time we are getting a DQ, and basically Britt has told Mercedes to get the job done this time. That's it. Take out Thunder Rosa. And
Hmm.
I think that's a really good transition to the eventual title feud that Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker are going to have.
Hmm. Hmm.
Makes sense, right? Now, at this point, it makes sense.
Yes.
So,
Agreed. Agreed.
I think this match is
And
happening on Dynamite or this week on Ramble. Like, what's going on?
I guess it's happening on next week's Dynamite. And basically, Britt Baker winning would also make sense. Britt getting one back on Thunder Rosa would also make sense, because last time Thunder Rosa won the match, and you know, but yes, Britt Baker got over because Thunder Rosa wasn't signed, and with the blood, with the color, AEW pushed heavily on social media and everything. Britt Baker, so she would get one back. So the score would be 1-1, even if that match was a lights out match. So looking forward to that match, absolutely.
And let's see where that goes. But let's talk about the tag match that they built in the initial, parts of the show. That was FTR versus CM Punk with a mystery opponent of Punk's choosing, and it turns out to be John Moxley. And I was okay with this because the surprise bit of the show was over. We already got two. I think they could have went for a three, but John Moxley and Punk, that's a pretty good, you could say, big deal that them being a tag team. So there was a fantasy booking going on that it could have been Samoa Joe. Even Punk called for Samoa Joe on Twitter. Are you in the country? And another thing about surprises. Initially, when Punk came out for that segment with the MJF celebration, I thought it was going to be the Briscoes, not Sting and Darby Allin. But anyways, we got this dream pairing between Mox and Punk, and this match was really solid. And what did you think about this match, man? Like, no surprise, FTR working another solid match on TV.
Uh,
Are you there?
एक मिनट आया एक मिनट Yes, I would agree that this was a solid showing for FTR. Absolutely, another TV, match for them, and you know, I would say that never in a million years I thought that John Moxley would be a tag team partner for CM Punk. I did not expect that. So when his music hit, I popped huge, basically. And it was a dream match, of course. And I would echo your thoughts that it was a great match, entertaining, competitive between the two teams. And the commentators pointed out to the situation between John Moxley and Bryan Danielson. I did not expect the commentary team to do such a good job, but they pointed out to that thing which is good. And we also, we saw there were some moments where Punk and John Moxley were not, you can say, were not in sync. There were some points that there was one point when uh, Moxley was going for the tag, but CM Punk was not there because FTR had gotten their way with CM Punk. So you can say that maybe the said moments are planting seeds for a future bout between Moxley and Punk. Yes, I am reaching, I am very much reaching for that, but yes, you could say that it is planting seeds for a showdown between Moxley and Punk in the distant future. I'm not saying right now, but in the distant future. And because we saw that there wasn't a, you can say, a, uh, you can say, a buddy buddy scenario between John Moxley and CM Punk. We did not saw that. We did not see that because they aren't a traditional tag team. They were just there as professionals, and they were there to fight FTR. Basically, that was their purpose. And yes, they are in good terms with one another because CM Punk is good friends with his wife Renee, and he also he being CM Punk came out in support of Moxley when he went to rehab for his alcohol issues. So it there is a good, you can say there is a good energy between the two, basically. So, or you can say Moxley wanted to give one back to Punk. That was basically it. If we see professional wrestling and here in this case as a real scenario, as real people, as we should in most cases, because that is how you get invested. And in this match, we were invested. There were at many points we saw that probably FTR was winning. When Cash Wheeler at one point he hit, I guess CM Punk with the ring bell, very reminiscent of one of the instances in the past. We thought that FTR is winning, but it didn't happen. There were many, spots. There was a Doomsday Device spot from Punk and Moxley that was fucking amazing. He thought probably FTR is losing, but they didn't at that point. Amazing bout. And there was at one point when FTR executed the big rig on CM Punk. CM Punk sold it like $1 million. Not many people do that for FTR or any other tag team, but he did that. But the only thing which stopped the pinfall was John Moxley, or else Punk would have been pinned because it is one of the FTR's finishers. Good stuff, basically. And other than that, FTR, initially they targeted Punk's left knee, which got injured last week in the bout against MJF in Chicago. So that also, is basically professional wrestling 101. And other than that, mm,
There was a spot with Tully Blanchard that was one of the
yes.
highlights. Like what
Hmm.
happened was Mox and Punk they had their respective submission. I think it was Mox. I think he was choking out Dax, while I think Punk locked in the Anaconda Vice on the other FTR member.
Hmm.
So basically, what happened was there was some distraction going on at this point, and Tully Blanchard came in, took off his jacket, and was swinging the jacket at Punk. And basically, he was out there not to hurt Punk but to just piss him off. And Punk got hold of Tully here and was about to pick him up, but Tully was not willing to go up. I think was even not ready, but he finally got in position, hit the GTOs on Tully, and I think after this there was something where FTR hit the big rake like you pointed out. So final parts where Mox and Punk hit their finishers. So Mox hit the paradigm shift while we see a GTS by CM Punk, and there you go, they go for the pin. Punk and Mox got the victory. Really solid match. And the other highlight was when Mox initially was tagged in, we hear a GCW chant from the crowd because it's Atlantic City, makes sense. And there you go. So, as a result of this, I think Punk gets his rematch with MJF, right?
Hmm. Yes, and um, it would make sense that it is on the pay-per-view, that is Revolution, I suppose. And this thing that I talked about, that the moments when CM Punk and John Moxley were not in sync, basically that would uh, also make John Moxley, or even Brian Danielson for that matter, question the possibility of them, that is Moxley and Danielson, ruling the AEW universe or realm together as a tag team, which Danielson proposed to John Moxley basically. And here, John Moxley got a first hand experience working as a tag team. And Danielson saw that how good Moxley can be, or is really, basically, when he is put in a situation, when he is to fight in a tag team situation. So there is a lot to think about for both John Moxley and Brian Danielson. So let's see how that story progresses. And now we are obviously mostly certain that hopefully MJF and CM Punk would probably have their match at the pay-per-view.
And who knows? I think in a way they planted a seeds for Punk and Danielson finally coming, face to face. That's
Mm-hmm.
somewhere down the line. It's not going to happen this soon because we got more stuff to cover. But who knows? And that's the biggest
Yes,
match that AEW could do.
agreed, absolutely.
Let's see where this all goes. I think Brian Danielson will be showing up on Rampage this week to say his thoughts on what's going on right now. So as we move along with Dynamite, we had a impromptu TBS Championship match. This is Jade Cargill defending against A.Q.A. They said that she is the student of Booker T. I'm like, come on, man. But other than that, I think it was shout out to Spandan who reminded me that A.Q.A. is was actually Zeda Remir in NXT, and that was a short stint over there in WWE. And if I remember, she appeared at least once or twice. That's it in the 6 month span, I guess, that she spent over there. And there you go. So she's here in AEW wrestling Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship, and it was short. It was your typical Jade Cargill match, and there were some good moments, some bad moments as well. And one of the highlights were A.Q.A. hitting a shooting star press on Jade Cargill. Looked good, and she was going for another, but this one failed. And at the end, Jade would hit the Jaded, her finisher, and get the win on A.Q.A. She is now 27-0 as the undefeated streak continues. And like I pointed out last week, really playing safe with this Jade TBS title run. I think it's good, but now that she is also improving and putting on some good matches like the Anna J match, it is overall it's great that what they are doing with Jade, and this match was fine for what it was. And thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I thought that this was a pretty good match, and you talked about A.Q.A. Age 25, one of the students of Booker T, I guess. Uh, it's the reality of wrestling, if I'm not wrong. His school, his promotion. So there's that, and I also, I guess, read a report that Jade is training with Brian Danielson nowadays, if I'm not wrong. So it's good, basically, and Jade is relatively new to the business. And JR also pointed out the said fact as well on commentary, and she has a potential. I have said it in the previous reviews as well, that she, i.e., Jade, has the potential to be a bona fide superstar and to go mainstream from her presence here in AEW. So that is why AEW is investing in her. And probably this was one of the first instances that we are seeing the TBS championship being defended on TBS,
Finally.
basically. Finally, yes. And other than that, the crowd seemed a little exhausted after the star-studded tag bout previously. But this match was basically, a showcase for Jade Cargill. I would have liked a shorter match, but nonetheless, you are giving a longer match here and there. So that is basically giving Jade experience so as to be ready when you put her in a position such as a pay-per-view match, a, a longer match. So she should be ready, basically. So it is good, and it was, I guess, her first title defense on Dynamite. So that is a thing of its own as well. Is good, and other than that, a good match, and looking forward to what is in store
So up
next.
next, we had the Young Bucks and Adam Cole again. So they were backstage, cutting their promo. So yeah, basically this was the segment that the channel Roppongi voice for a match at Rampage. and hope they come out 100% in a show in a while showing up in this match. So Young Bucks, talk about Jay White showing up earlier on and said that they didn't know about this. So Adam Cole said, "Trust me," and he talks about their past. When they were in Bullet Club, and he said that he basically took a oath saying that Bullet Club is for life, and so he leaves as he has something else that he has plans, and that was the end of the segment. As Young Bucks were little frustrated and mad at Brandon Cutler, who's basically does their video packages. Well, he basically films those, and he Young Bucks basically asked Brandon Cutler, "Did you know about this?" And Brandon basically said that he might have heard about this on Reddit. That was very LOL. And there you go. That was the segment. And we have spoken in depth, I guess, at this point. There is something brewing between Adam Cole and M Bucks. Let's see what it turns out to be, how it comes about. But moving on, we had another women's match, shockingly, on Dynamite. And it was short, but it was involving Serena Deep. So she was out there to do you could say, a 5-minute open challenge, basically a 5-minute rookie open challenge. So she's challenging anyone on the roster. She talks about how she destroyed Sky Blue a few weeks ago and said nobody is on her level. So we get to this match. It is Serena D versus Katie Arquette. No relation to David Arquette. But there you go. We This was a quick squash match. They showed up a 5-minute counter on the clock in the screen. So Serena Deeb is basically toying with Katie Arquette, and she finishes her opponent off in under a minute. She locks in the Serenity lock, and there you go. Serena Deeb gets a victory, and there I think it was fine for what they did here. I think there is some big plans for her. Otherwise, that's the reason that they are showcasing Serena Deeb consistently, I guess, on television for the past couple of weeks. So that's good to hear.
Hmm. Serena Deeb has built that character that people are invested in. She is not just a you know throwaway character, you know, or just a throwaway wrestler that people aren't invested in. She has some substance in that people are invested in. People want to watch and stuff like that. So that is why she has a presence on television. That is why she is being booked consistently on Dynamite or Rampage, whatever. That is the reason why. And she, throwing out a 5-minute challenge, basically the Professor 5-minute challenge is basically adding to her character, adding to her persona, basically having this aura and having this vibe to it, that basically her heel character or her villain, her and having this ego basically, and she embodies the character, a veteran who thinks that the current crop of wrestlers are no good basically, and you know she thinks that the current crop of wrestlers are more focused on social media. They are soft, they are snowflakes, they're just fucking makeup barbies, etc., etc. Basically they are not tough. They didn't go through the training that she did in her time. In her time, it was so difficult to even get booked on television, and she went through the training schools of her time, the OVWs and stuff like that, when the training was so hard, so to speak. So that is what she embodies and she spits out with her character. So, and she thinks in her mind that she is the best women's wrestler on the roster. So love what she is embodying the character, and you know when the people hate her, so basically when she becomes this asset that people hate, so whoever you put in front of her basically automatically becomes a baby face. So that is what the purpose is. So whoever in the future we would see that she puts over, basically they are investing in Serena Deeb so that whenever we have a baby face or a character who is to be put over, uh, she could be there basically, and she herself is also building her stock up as a top heel women's wrestler. So it is a win-win situation.
We'll
Good
have,
stuff.
we'll have to wait and see what the plans are for Serena Deep. But let's
Hmm.
quickly rush into the main event. We have Hangman Adam Page. He's defending the AEW World Championship against Lance Archer in a Texas death match. And at this point, it's clear to me that a Texas death match is basically a last man standing match, if I'm not wrong. So
Hmm.
this match began when it was actually Lance Archer coming out first, but we cut to the back where we see both Page and Archer having a big brawl. So they fight, to the entrance way through the tunnel, and we would see Page sending Archer through the heel tunnel where you could see Archer's logo in a glass. Could say it was printed on a glass. I think he was about to make a big entrance. So Archer gets sent into this glass panel, and you could see Archer busted open from the get go. So basically, they were having a huge brawl from what this type of match they were having. So back in the ring, Page quickly gets in the buckshot lariat as Lance Archer escapes. So of course, we're going to get weapons involved in this match. So uh, what happened was, as Archer, started getting some offense in, we would see Dan Lambert showing up along with Jake Roberts. He came out and he unhooked the top one of the turnbuckles initially, removing the first top rope, if I am phrasing that correctly.
Yes.
So
Top rope, basically.
so it made sense because Page's finisher is the buckshot lariat. So right now
Yes.
he can't hit that move again. So the basically Archer is dominating Page at this point. We even see Page getting busted open. I don't know what exactly he got busted open by. Ah, yes, Archer used the turnbuckle, that the hook that they used.
Yes.
He
Yes.
basically scraped it over Page's head. So Page, I think he really busted open the hard way. Like this time, he was bleed from it. He was bleeding from one side of his face, and it was the blood was pouring out like it was a fountain or something. Like insane
Hmm.
scene. So Archer is basically dominating Page at this point, and there was another big spot where he introduced a seal step in the outside and laid it sideways, and he picked up Page. I thought he was not going to do this, but he did hit
Hmm.
a blackout, and Page basically bounced off this steps, and I think he even landed on the steel post. Looked ridiculous. So then we see Archer introducing a fork, and he was just stabbing on the wound of Page. Made me cringe. And JR was saying, "Is he Abdullah the Butcher?" And as he's digging in those forks, and we would see Archer licking that bloody fork in. Another cringe spot. Um, Crowd chants, "You sick fuck." And Page, after that, slowly started to get some offense in, as he was getting beaten to a pulp at this point. So they even teased doing a table spot in the outside, which was actually set up by Archer. I think this is becoming a thing in is no DQ matches, that he sets up table near the apron for a big choke slam or whatever. So they teased the table spot. It didn't happen. So what happened was, I'm jumping to the final parts. Like, Page is trying to knock off Archer at this point on the table, but it's not working. So there was a moment where the referee decided to go for, and I think was clearing some debris or getting rid of a weapon. So he reached out for this weapon as the referee is bending. Page took a opportunity and he used the referee as a launching pad to hit the buckshot lariat, and basically sending Archer into the table, and as both men crashed and burned. So Archer is dead at this point, and referee did the 10 count. Archer couldn't answer the 10 count. Page wins, retains the AEW World Championship. Surprisingly, this was entertaining and really good match, even for this garbage style of match. What did you think about it?
Hmm. I would agree that it was a very entertaining match. I really enjoyed this match. Loved the violence. As I did not expect that the match would start in the back, basically, and the bump through the glass pane was fucking insane. Maybe a nod to the rumors of Shane McMahon joining AEW.
Ah, and this match was so
Bro,
brutal. At one point, I thought maybe Nick Gage, comes back to AEW, seeing that it's in Atlantic City. It's basically GCW territory, and the crowd loved this type of match. No surprise.
hmm, mhm. And in the start, then Archer got one back with the trash can lid, you know, smacking on the head, unprotected, fucking insane. Uh, Throughout the match, the violence and every spot which we saw, uh, fucking, I I had no words. Basically, we enjoyed this type of violence in this match. Yes, they shouldn't do that every other week, or do it often, because it would lose its value. It would lose its shine, basically. But here and there, it goes to the crowd, and the crowd and the fans, people like us, we really enjoy this match when it is executed like this, when it is executed to perfection. And this was like that. And I would like to say that Lance Archer also shined in this match. He did a great job throughout the match. And I would like to say that yes, it was just a transitional feud to the eventual, match with Hangman Page, Adam Cole, basically. But I would like to see an consistent investment in Lance Archer as well, because he is built different, and guys who are built different and they are of a different stature, you invest in those guys and have something to them. You got him in a main event storyline, so you invest in those guys, you build on that. People are invested in that guy, so why don't you build on that rather than just take him off television and then just forget about him? No. Yes, he had a Texas death match. He would be injured. Yes, agreed. you can take him off television 2 weeks, 3 weeks at max, get him back, have some story, then you know get him in the groove, get people invested, go forward, rather than just have him here and there in short-term feuds. That's the only thing with regards to Lance Archer. And they also loved Jake Roberts, landing the slingshot short arm lariat on Hangman Page
And
in the midst of the bout.
crowd asked for the DDT, and Jake was ready for it, but Lan said, "No, you're not taking my moment." Crowd booed. That was a very LOL thing.
Yes, yes.
And Hangman hit a DDT instead.
Hmm. Yes.
Very funny.
Typical babyface.
But
Classic babyface.
let's talk about the post-match stuff here. So Adam Cole promised that he has something else in mind. So he shows up as Paige was celebrating, and shows up in the ring, goes face to face with Paige and gets the AEW World Championship first. So a little stare down between him and Paige, and he takes the title, puts on the shoulders on Paige, and just walks away as he had a little you could say stare down with just seeing the championship. And there you go. This is your potential main event at this point for Revolution, Page versus Cole, and would make sense. But really interesting that Adam Cole didn't took a very heelish approach to this, and I think it's in it makes I think it makes sense on what story they are trying to tell. We also have the previous segment with Jay White, the Bullet Club, Super Click. I think it could all make sense. Uh, Intrigued. That's the only word I want to put in this situation.
Agreed, agreed. Intrigued, and absolutely all these things which have happened in this, scenario with the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Red Dragon, and now, Hangman Page. We talked about it, in one of the reviews in the past. So it is all coming together, and how would the tensions and how would it all play out? It is interesting. So overall, top to bottom, a great show. And I would just like to point out just one thing with regards to commentary, that in some parts of the episode of Dynamite, it seemed like Excalibur was extremely, you can say, aggressive, with regards to his commentary, like really over. And uh, you know JR was unable to participate in commentary. Basically, I would just like to point that out. I know that JR has his health issues and the criticisms from the fans. We know that, but man, uh, the emotion aspect which JR brings to the table, it is unmatched, and the crowd gets involved in that as well, and it takes the match from this level to this level. That is all I'm saying. So I know that Excalibur is a good commentator, from and yes, it is just my opinion. Some people say that he is a great commentator, some would say that he is not good, but I say that he's a pretty good commentator. The work he puts in and the intellect that he has with regards to the wrestling moves. I learn from him whenever he is on commentary.
And
So there's that. But let JR participate. That is only this thing. But it is for the betterment of the show. yes, JR is not a yes man. He is very brutally honest many a times on commentary, uh, but he is one of the best to ever do it, basically. And many a times we hear uh, JR joking or maybe even snide comments, you know, to the other partner commentary people. But those things are basically unhealed aspects of himself, which he needs to heal. He being JR. That those you can say are shortcomings of JR which are in within himself, which he needs to heal. That he being snide and him making fun of probably Excalibur or probably Tony within the show doing commentary. Those things are within him and he needs to heal from that. So that is his problem. But Tony and Excalibur should not take his snide comments personally. That is only the thing. But participation of JR takes the show to another level. And the case we know, you know, the people who have seen and who have experienced JR doing commentary from the 80s and even in the Attitude Era and even some part of the Ruthless Aggression era, they know how good he is. Yes, he can't do in the level that he did in the Attitude Era, but still he is an asset to the team. So let him participate as well. And yes, the snide comments, just don't give too much thought to that. That's
And,
all.
one last thing, with Hangman's world title run, I think we have hit another peak with that. I think it's going to get better. The Danielson thing, was great. We felt the Archer thing was going to be a little downgrade, but that was good for what it was. The match with Adam Cole should be really good, and I think he's finally shutting down his critics. Don't you think?
Hmm. Hmm. The match with Lance Archer, I would say that just like you said, it elevated the title run of Hangman Adam Page. I would absolutely agree. And right now, I am little, you can say, in doubt as to what is going to happen when Hangman Adam Page is going against Adam Cole, who would be winning. Because, AEW sees Adam Cole as a bona fide superstar as well. And they see Hangman Adam Page as a potential, uh, you know, work in progress as a bona fide superstar as well. So you can say if Hangman Page is on the verge of being a superstar in the future, so Hangman Page probably would be here. So Adam Cole is here if we are talking about this. So how would AEW book this scenario? So it would be pretty interesting. Let's see.
Let's
Right
see.
now, the run of Hangman Page has been just a few days. So I do not see, and you would agree to that as well, that Hangman Page wouldn't be losing the world championship. But if this whole thing is stretched out and we see a second bout between the two, probably in the second bout, Adam Cole can take the championship.
But
If
Abby,
it, yes.
as we are running out of time, Where can these guys find?
Guys, you can connect with me on Twitter and Instagram at AbbeyManiac, and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn and Facebook as well.
And you can find Slamhub Wrestling on Twitter at SlamhubW, Instagram at Slamhub Wrestling. You can catch this review on Anchor and Spotify as well. This was the AEW Dynamite review, and we'll see you guys next time.